Hi guys, it's Olive. I'm here to do part 2 of this very large book haul. I'm definitely going to have to split this into 3 parts. There are just too many books. These next 2 sections will be entirely composed of fiction, but I made the choice not to divide them into subgenres this time. Just a personal choice. The first book I picked up is called Empress by Shan Sa. This is a novel about Empress Wu, who was the first and only female empress in China. She ruled during the Tang Dynasty in the 7th century. I know extremely little about Chinese history, which is something I'd like to correct, and hopefully a compelling novel will then pull me into wanting to read some nonfiction about this subject matter. So, very excited for this one. This next one is one that I saw new at Barnes & Noble when I was browsing one day and was very interested but did not want to pay full cover price for it. But then I saw it on Book Outlet and decided to pick it up. It is called The Invention of Exile by Vanessa Montko. But this is a book about a Russian man who in 1913 leaves Russia and moves to Connecticut, where he meets his wife. But then he is accused of some wrongdoing, and I'm not sure if he's guilty or not, and then has to return to Russia with his wife and children. But because of the Civil War taking place during that time period, they must leave Russia again and go to Mexico. I can see why this caught my eye originally at Barnes & Noble. I am so happy I have a copy of it. I just get the vibe from this one that this is something I'm really going to enjoy. The next is called Shashenka by Simon Montefiore. I have not read anything by this author, which is a really big problem because he writes really great historical fiction set in Russia. Obviously, this is about a girl named Shashenka. It starts in 1916 and then moves into the Stalinist era. It seems like this book involves conspiracy, betrayal, a love affair. It just overall sounds really fantastic. Picked up a couple more well-known novels, the first being East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I am trying to get more into classics during 2016, and everyone speaks so highly of this book. Of course, the library has tons of copies of this, and I had really considered taking it out of the library when I eventually got around to reading it, but it is a very large book, and when I take large books out of the library, I tend to get a little bit defeatist, like there's no way I can finish this before it's due, so I end up never finishing them. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I just decided to pick this one up. I got a personal recommendation for this one. It's called She's Come Undone by Wally Lamb. Wally Lamb is a pretty big name. I actually didn't know that until recently, but I do now. The Oprah label kind of speaks for itself. This was a very popular book during the 90s. It is a coming-of-age story that centers around a 13-year-old girl. The next few books are more Russian-focused books, or post-Soviet space-focused books. The first being All That Is Solid Melts Into Air by Darren McKeon. This, I believe, is an Irish author, and this book takes place at Chernobyl. I've been really interested to own this one for a very long time. It is a gorgeous book. I think when I eventually get around to reading this book, I want to read it alongside of Voices from Chernobyl, which is a nonfiction book that talks about Chernobyl, obviously. I know the basics about the Chernobyl disaster, but I do not know the nitty-gritty. I know that it's going to be very hard to read about that, but it's one of those things where I feel like in order to be an informed citizen of the world, it's something I really should be educated about. Plus, I think it's almost more palatable to read about these tragedies and these horrific things that happen if you're reading it alongside of a very compelling novel. The next book is The Big Green Tent by Ludmila Utlitskaya. I had this out from the library and had to return it because I knew I wasn't going to get to it because once again, it's a large book from the library, so I almost feel doomed before I even begin. But when my lovely friend Steve over at Open Letters Monthly heard that I had to return this book unread because there was no way I was going to get to it, he sent me a copy because he is a wonderful human being. The next book is one that I also received from Steve that I'm not sure I could have been more excited to receive in the mail. That one is called Lauris by Eugene Vodolazkin. This was translated by Lisa Hayden. I'm actually friends with her on Goodreads. She was a Goodreads friend of mine from way back because she is a translator and a reader of Russian literature, reader of all things Russian, really. And I just was obsessed with her Goodreads page, and I saw that she was translating this. So this was sitting on my wish list forever. Steve didn't even know that, but still sent it to me. So that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to receive this. I was having a really rough day that day, so getting this in the mail made the whole day better. This book takes place in 15th century Russia and centers around a young healer. I guess you'd call him the 15th century version of a doctor. He's very educated in medicinal herbs and treatments. And he decides to set off across Europe because there is a pestilence spreading itself across Europe. So this is about all of his encounters, hijinks, as he makes his way across 15th century Europe, which sounds so incredible. Plus, this book is shiny and gorgeous. Oh, in the back. This book is just absolutely beautiful. I just can't even. I am pushing things off of my TBR in order to make room for this one because I am that excited about reading this one. So expect to be hearing about this one sooner rather than later here on my channel. I saw this next book on clearance at Barnes & Noble and I had to rescue it. And I didn't have my own copy, so it worked out really well. It's A Constellation of Vital Phenomenon by Anthony Marra. You may know that The Tsar of Love and Techno, Anthony Marra's latest book, was my favorite book of 2015. I did not love this book as much as everyone else did. I really enjoyed it, but I did not love it. And I'm wondering if that had something to do with the audiobook experience. This is definitely something I want to reread, and now I have my own copy to do so. The next book is called The Body in the Bookcase by Katherine Hall Page. As far as I know, this is a murder mystery with books involved, and I really don't know much more than that, but that was enough to convince me to buy it. The next book is Till the Well Runs Dry by Lauren Francis Sharma. I heard somebody on BookTube singing this book's praises, but this takes place in Trinidad and follows a young, sassy girl, and she meets a young policeman. And I think they fall in love, and then it's about her life thereafter, the good parts, the bad parts, of course. I have never read anything about Trinidad, the place or the people, so I will be very interested to pick this one up. This next book I'm very excited to talk about. It's very, very unique. That is That Mad Ache. This is by Francois Sagan and it's translated by Douglas Hofstadter. This is a French novel and it centers around a woman and her two loves. She has a more docile, carefree love for an older man, and then she has a wild, passionate love for a younger man. And I think the novel is focusing on her reconciliation of those two loves, probably her inability to choose between those two loves. So it sounds really, really interesting, sounds very French. But the interesting part about this book is that when you flip it over, there's a whole other book back here by the translator, Douglas Hofstadter, who talks about the translating experience. So half of this book is the novel, but then it stops. And when you flip it over, start from the other side, it is this long essay from the translator about the process of translating. I've never seen anything like this. Not only does the novel sound fascinating, but I've always been interested in the process of translation. I did a little bit when I studied Russian in college, not enough to give myself any kind of credit for it. But it is much more difficult than you would think it is. I know Michael from Knowledge Lost has been very adamant that people mention translators when they're talking about works of translated fiction in their BookTube videos. And I have to say, I am completely on board with his efforts to do so. Translation is very difficult. It is a labor of love, and I definitely believe that translators need to be given credit where credit is due for the translations that they do. So I think reading this bind up is going to be a very fascinating experience. So that was part 2 of this book haul. Part 3 will be coming very soon. Please let me know down in the comments below if you're interested in any of these books. I'd love to chat with you. If you want to get in touch with me elsewhere, I'm abookolive on both Twitter and Instagram. My blog is allofthebooks.com, and my Goodreads page is linked down below if you'd like to be friends. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. I'll see you next time. Bye.